Go right ahead.
Welcome to Still Talking Uncut. I'm your host, Big Easy, joined by Master Distiller Sean Rigsby. Also got another Master Distiller in the house. Welcome to the show, Miss Mena Patt. Season 2, episode 7? 2? 7? I don't know. Season 2? Absinthe.
Season 3. I was on the Popcorn Sutton Challenge as well. Tournament of Champions. First episode.
That's what it was. I used on a second
Nice. I wonder why they didn't bring all the champions back.
Anyway. They don't like Sean.
Because I like Sean.
I'll say it.
Them couch videos.
Hashtag where's my jar? I did nothing for that. But anyways, welcome to the show. We appreciate you taking time out of your evening to join us. If you haven't seen her episode, you got to go watch it. Absinthe is a fickle lady, and she can go wrong really, really fast. It is a beast that you better be ready to tame when you jump into that. So when you watch what she does on the show, you're real intrigued by. You can definitely tell that she knows what she's doing when it comes to botanicals and things like that. So I was really impressed with her in that. It was definitely a much better watch than the vodka episode, that's for sure. So
I know that's right.
Anyways, I'll let y'all do your thing.
That's man. I mean, what more can you say after that, man? Let's be honest. I mean, you bust the host balls completely about his episode. I mean, damn.
Sometimes when you're on, you know, it's all good.
I know, but Mena, I'll start this. I know I went back and watched the episode today, and it just from start to finish, man, you were so calm, cool, and collected. So apparently you were very comfortable in your environment and in that situation. So tell me a little bit more about what made you into that. I mean, you just were you were just easy into that, man. It seemed like, or weren't you? Were you a nervous wreck and we didn't see it?
Nervous wreck,
man. I couldn't tell. I really couldn't tell.
So I had only been distilling professionally for a couple months when I did that episode. My first complete fermentation and to distilling happened on that episode. The distillery I was working at, I assisted in fermentations, but they didn't want the girl to, touch their stuff.
Mark, sorry, that count. Man, that's
he went.
Look, it's
Sean's
the
got
end of
hair.
December, and that is the comment of the year in our podcast. I'm sorry. I
Sean's got hair. Sean's blessed. You're one off.
So continue. I'm sorry. That was.
Yeah. So I mean, I did it. I didn't feel like I was going to win. I just thought it'd be a great opportunity to really focus my skill set and really push myself because I didn't want to look like a dumbass on television. They had told me that I wasn't going to have to do a fermentation. And then, hey, can you be in Tennessee in 2 weeks? And you have to do a fermentation. And it's going to be the absinthe episode. I was hoping for something like gin or something, with botanicals. But I've never done absinthe. I had probably done a couple of gin runs. It was just COVID time. I did have a background as an herbalist and, super fancy high-end cocktail bartender. So those are all things that helped me. And I really kind of my side project at this fancy cocktail bar I was at before we shut down for COVID was working with absinthe. Anytime somebody was like, pick your spirit of choice. And it was a challenge that I set myself up. You're getting absinthe because, it's such just interesting flavor profile. A lot of people pick licorice out of it, but it's really the anise that's in it that, gives that strong flavor profile as well as the wormwood. But, that is a trick. How do I make something that is kind of like improv jazz? Like you just, don't go from pop to, listening to improv jazz. There has to be like music and notes and artists that you kind of build a palette for before you get to, something like Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. And I think that Absinthe is like that. There's other flavor profiles, things that you have to experience, things that you like before, you kind of like open up your palate to going, Absinthe, delicious. So that was really helpful for me. And it just kind of, everything just seemed to kind of align, in that whole experience, that before I shut down for COVID, that I was, studying absinthe. I started growing all the botanicals for absinthe in my garden. When we shut down, the 2 weeks that I wasn't working, I, went right to my garden. It's like, finally, I have all this time to really invest my energy into the garden. And, I had already other plants that were in absinthe. I had lemon balm and other artemisias in the garden. So it wasn't a big stretch. And I just, as an herbalist, we sit with the plants. We really get to know the plant before we work with it medicinally. And so I took that energy into the different components of absinthe. So it just was so fortunate that I was asked, to be on that episode. And, when I left for Tennessee, I pulled the plants from my garden, for the episode. It was just kind of like there's so many like secular moments through that journey of being a distiller.
Well, so how old were you when that, you don't seem like you're old now.
Man,
to me,
so you don't ask a lady her age.
No, I'm just
This thing
curious.
doesn't know
No,
anything.
I'm curious as far as
I love when I'm not the asshole.
No. Like,
Bars
absinthe
of fire.
when did you discover absinthe? Is kind of where more I was going with this.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Because more. How early did you get?
Said a lot about nothing.
Shut up.
So the first time I had absinthe was when it was legalized in the U.S. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe I was like 38 at the time.
Okay.
And that was a hell of a night. It was pretty much like now I've had alcohol poisoning, like really bad, but I would say that night with the absinthe was the worst hangover I ever had. Have you ever cooked a hot dog in the microwave and it like exploded? Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
I have made ramen noodles with no water twice.
That's what was just filleted open. That's how my head felt that first night drinking absinthe. In all fairness, I think I was doing fireballs and Russian quaaludes before my friend was like, "Yeah, let's have absinthe shots." So it wasn't really absinthe.
Yeah, you were just been there. You get to where you're like, all right, I don't want to go through all the trouble of drinking this right with the cubes and Lucian. So you start pouring shots of it because you're like, it tastes kind of like Jaeger, nasty black licorice, But like you said, after all them other ones before it, you don't care. It's just like, yeah, let's do more. You don't feel how bad that the green fairy kicked you in the ass till the next day, and you're like, man, that fairy went hard on me last night.
Oh, it was.
It makes you not want absinthe ever again. Like when I was younger, my stepdad imported absinthe from overseas when you couldn't buy it here, but you could order it in. And so he was ordering it in, and he had the spoons and the cubes and the Lucian. He's doing all this and lighting it on fire. He's doing it right. It was a big thing for him. And we're drinking it and this and that. And then he goes out of town for the weekend and there's bottles left, like, hey. And, I drank way too much of it the wrong way. It was bad. So I understand it. She'll get you quick, man. You don't play with the fairy. You respect her.
Yeah. She's high proof and wild and elegant all at the same time. Right?
Yes, she is. Everything.
She is a nasty beast, that's for sure. She's
a good time though. It's definitely one of those things that you said when you go to make them. It's something you build to. Like it's something you build to, and for you to go in after only having such a short time of distilling experience and still being able to fall back on what you do best, and with the herbs and all that, it was like it was meant to be, and you were able to shine with what you do, and that really carried you through to make up for the lack of distilling experience that you had actually had in making it. So it's really cool to fall back and be able to just use everything that you've learned throughout your journey, let alone the distilling experience, to be able to succeed. So
Yeah,
it was
and
really cool.
I definitely asked for the green fairy to help me. Every day I was like, I asked to call that energy in. I asked for support. And, when I was thinking about, how I wanted to approach my builds or my formula for the show and for competing, I really initially, like, my ego was like super involved. Yeah, I want to make something like cool. I want to like maybe make it like an Asian absinthe. And I was like working with Blue Lotus, and I love to work with that plant. And then I was thinking, hey, maybe I'll make an Appalachian absinthe, and use all these particular botanicals that are bioregional. And then, I was really just sitting with everything. And, absinthe was just like, hey, I'm difficult enough.
Right.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just make absinthe. And I think that's really what helped me just like really just, kind of engaging with the essence. So I focused, instead of trying to like make some crazy wild formula, I just deep dived in the history. I got Amazon, but all the books I could find on Amazon, shipped to me as quickly as possible, and just started researching and reading and just tearing through everything that I could find on absinthe. And I think it was that research and just taking my sense of self out of it and just thinking about just highlighting absinthe. And I think that is what really helped me through it.
So the judge they had on the show, explain a little bit more about him. He was the guy that helped get absinthe made legal again in the United States.
Yes, and actually, I was reading one of his books, and when they had mentioned there was going to be a celebrity judge. By the way, I didn't watch Moonshiners before I got to Tennessee to compete. I don't watch TV. I mean, there's a rare, occasionally my kids will be like, "Mom, you really need to watch." Fallout. I think that, really aligns, or, what we do in the shadows. And I'll like bust out my laptop and watch, but I normally don't watch TV. And so when I heard that there was a celebrity judge, I was like, I wonder, he seems like the choice. If I was in charge of finding a celebrity judge, that he would be the person. And then when I heard it was him, I went total fangirl.
So you knew before the episode that it was going to be him?
What?
Did you know before you went on that he was going to be the judge?
No,
you just randomly just dug in and thought this is who it might be. So hell yeah.
And, so he reverse engineered. His background is an engineer, and he's French. And so he wanted to bring the spirit that he loved so much into the U.S. So he reverse engineered. He was able to prove that thogen, which is the component that had all the reason they are blaming the need for a prohibition against absinthe, it being hallucinogenic. The amount is really obscene. As strong as absinthe is, it's not enough to really kind of induce those states. Just like with the weed prohibition, you had companies that did a smear campaign against thogen and absinthe, like you did with the DuPont Corporation in cannabis here in the U.S. So he was the good soul that did all that work to help make it legal here in the U.S. again. So I was really stoked. What a gift to be able to craft something and it be judged by somebody who like knows the spirit and researched it so intimately. So that was like such an amazing experience. And not only, them, it was just all the moonshiner judges as well. It was just an amazing experience.
Hold on.
Just being, I guess, a city, glamour girl, being able to meet moonshiners, legacy moonshiners, it was just an incredible experience. I'd been wanting to learn to make moonshine for years, and I had been a hydrosol distiller. So that's where I got my start with distilling, is making rose waters and hydrosols with mugwort and just, different things that I'd find in the wild or in the garden. And so that really helped distilling things individually. And
do you care? I don't mean to interrupt you. Do you care to explain what hydrosol is?
Yeah, I was going to go to that question.
So is everybody familiar with essential oils?
Yes.
So it is the distillate of just the water instead of just the oil. So the water and the oil separate, and usually the essential oils kind of just float on top, after it runs through the still. And, like 200 years ago, it was the distillation for the plants was just for the hydrosol, and essential oils was kind of like the byproduct, because it is basically a poison because it's so concentrated. And nowadays it's the opposite. People were taking the essential oil and, getting rid of the hydrosol, and that was kind of the byproduct. But I think it's coming back on that as well. I think hydrosols are getting the respect that they deserve, because it is that water that carries that, elegant essence of the plant. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, if he wasn't so high.
I don't talk to a whole lot of people that do essential oils. The only really person that I've talked to that did it is that does essential oils is Vaughn, Schoolhouse Farms.
Yes,
he does lavender essential oils, and so everybody else, they just it's just all about distilling mash and things like that. So it's nice to hear about that, because it's legal to own a still in Ohio for making essential oils and water. So
that's
something
what we all do when the right person's asking.
It's something good to know how to do. Like if you're gonna say it's what you're using it for, you should know how to do it. So,
and when I've driven around with my still for whatever reason, I always kind of have my plants hanging in the back of my car or truck if I ever got pulled over. It'd probably be a little bit more believable coming, for somebody that's just kind of like, girl, airy fairy,
Right.
But when I was coming back from Kentucky and Tennessee, I probably had an obscene amount of liquor in the back of my car, and some moonshine, and a still from Thunder Road, and I was luckily not pulled over. But I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to talk myself out of this one.
I'm just transporting. I'm just delivering.
What size was the very first still you ever ran on?
The first still was a 500 milliliter. It was a glass still.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Probably like the ones that you used to run at the.
Had me in the beginning though. She said 500. I'm like, yeah. It started piquing my interest. Like, had me in the beginning, had me in the first half.
Same thing.
So professionally, when my bar was shut down for COVID, I was working. My largest one was about 4 gallons then, and I went from that to an abomination of a still. It was 1,000 gallons, but it was a beer brewer that they just on the top of it, they pulled, the cap off, and they put a pan lid and some washcloths, and then a rubber gasket and a clamp on it.
Nice.
And so on that,
they did everything but paste it. They did everything but put paste on there.
Talking my language here.
No, we're not.
So I'd backload kegs of beer into the brewer and then cook it down to about 20 ABV, and I'd fill it in a 300-gallon tote, and then I'd forklift it over to our glorified moonshine still, which was like basically 150-gallon like milk. I forget what you call it.
Milk can?
Yeah. And then we had the Mile High Distilling, like a 4-inch tower on that. And then I got another 6-inch diameter tower. And then when I started making vodka there, I would just take all the pieces, every still piece I had, and like
put it all together.
Would connect them. So, and that was great experience for me because I was basically kind of making my own hybrid still, and depending on the spirit I was making, I would, break all those pieces down and rebuild them, for whatever I was making. So it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of days where I was like, this just does not feel like OSHA would approve of any of this.
That'll be all right. Yeah, that'll be all right.
It'd be all right.
So you were talking about you were taking kegs of beer and then you were cooking them down, cooking them down to increase the ABV. So you was like simmering the water out, pretty much. And is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much. So during COVID, everybody was out of hand sanitizer. So that's what I was hired to do, is to make hand sanitizer. And it was really great to be able to be of service in that time when nobody knew what was going on. They didn't even know, how it was spreading. And so this is initially all going to first responders. We were taking beer that was going, bad from different bars. They were picking them up, and then we were redistilling that. And, I was like the third shift distiller. And, as I was talking to the owner about my background, he was just like, you know what? I bet you could make some gin. So if you don't suck, I'll teach you how to make, real drinking booze. And I only blew things up one time, but it wasn't my fault completely. And
can I stop you right there? You say you only blew things up one time?
Well, there was, we were running like 24 hours a day, and, it was just like everybody on that, everybody that day made like one minute thing, they did one thing wrong. And by the time, my
sounds
one
like
thing
working with this crew.
Yeah, it compounded.
That's every day.
And, and I learned a lot, in that, explosion and it was just like that pot lid and the rubber gasket coming off. And I had no idea what was holding it all together. And I was just like, oh my God. But it like geysered, all that, like, I guess it was like maybe 800 gallons just like spewed out the top. It was wild. But I had my glass still going. I had like an orange experiment. I had, the other still going because I was like cooking down, proofing it up to 180 proof. And then I had the big brewer going. That was the abomination. So I was just like, 3 stills at once. Maybe it's not the move.
It'll be all right.
And I think I was like formulating a vermouth or something. I was being crazy.
So What's your favorite thing that you've ever made to drink?
Like to drink? I mean, I love absinthe. I really do. I don't drink a whole lot, now compared to what I used to drink. But so it's just when I feel like a little something, a little digestive, maybe I ate too much, I really do like to drink a little, glass of absinthe. But right now, I don't know. So some of those spirits that I made at that first distillery, it shut down after I left, and the brewery went out of business. And I often wondered what happened to all of my barrels. And it's been like 5 years now. And somebody had messaged me. I don't even know how they got my number, and was offering, to sell me my barrels back. And I was like, hell yes, I want all of my barrels. Thank you. I don't care how much it costs. I'll find a way to get the money for it. And then they never messaged me again and didn't answer my emails. And then Devil's Foot Brewing here in North Carolina, up in the mountains outside of Asheville, they had a month ago reached out to me, and they said they had my barrels and wanted to get, the background, my story. And, they were really excited to release everything. And it was the Bloody Butcher rye for me that it's 160 proof. And it was my first, whiskey that I did. And it's so good. I'm so, initially when I went, the first couple of whiskeys that I did, I was tasting them off the still, and I was like, maybe I should just stick to, gins. And at that time I didn't even make an absinthe. And just, maybe I should just stick to the botanical spirits, amaros and gins and all that. And now I'm like, fuck. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
Oh, no, you're good.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
No.
You're in the right place.
You're in the perfect place, dear. Absolutely.
Doing something right.
You have found your people.
Oh God, it's on now.
I click the explicit box when I upload to Apple, so every time it's all good.
But yeah, so I don't know, that like reopens things back up to me. So at some point, all of these spirits that have been resting in a barrel on their own adventure without me while I was going through my adventure, it's going to be released here in a little bit. And I'm really super stoked, really excited, because I hadn't been distilling professionally in the past couple years. I went through some things. I went through a lot of changes and kind of burned myself out at the last distillery that, I launched. In 6 months, I did like 7 spirits.
So,
after the first, the still was built out, and I did 4 menus. I trained the staff. I was doing inventory. It was a lot.
I'm chomping at the bit here. So was all this after your time on Master Distiller? So did your time on Master Distiller, you winning Master Distiller, did this lead up to a distillery position? I mean, is that how that ended up rolling out, or was this something that would probably have happened anyway? Or, how did that whole play out after the show?
Well, I would like to think that it would have happened anyways, because I was already working as a professional distiller for a brewery / distillery. But I think that doing Moonshiners Master Distiller and, doing so well on my episode helped fast track me. Let's see. We shot in August. The episode came out in January. I think it was April that I first started talking to this distillery that was about to open up. Well, what it was I was going through a divorce. The house was going up for sale. The distillery I was at wasn't the right fit for me. There was just some unscrupulous, business happenings that just weren't great for me. And I signed a no compete contract. So I, couldn't work at any distillery, other than that one in town. So my only option was to move, unfortunately.
You got to do what you got to do at times. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I just really threw myself into my work, and I was, I felt like I, produced some amazing stuff while I was there at the sacrifice of my own like personal well-being. Like I loved what I was doing, but at the same time, if you don't rest and take care of yourself, just like the still, don't run 3 stills at once. You just gotta, pace yourself. Otherwise, burnout is a real thing.
So what got you into the Bloody Butcher? I mean, had you distilled that before, or was that something that after the show? I mean, what had you distilled before the show? Was it mainly making beer? Had you distilled a little bit of liquor or gin or vodka or anything before the show?
Yes, before the show, I had done several whiskeys, a brandy, gins, an agave spirit, tequila, but made in America. The agave was getting shipped. The concentrate was getting shipped to us from via Mexico. And let's see, and I made Amaros. I didn't do a rum there, but just
So that's
such a small distillery. I was able to just have fun and make as many things as I wanted.
So that's when I watched the episode, I felt like you were comfortable and confident. You were, in a sense, comfortable and confident, but you didn't think you were going into that. So you had been around things like that, but just not to that level. I mean,
yes. So I started working there on my birthday, April 15th. May is when I started talking to Moonshiners Master Distillers, and then I was in Tennessee in August.
All right. So it was kind of quick, yeah.
It was quick. I was just hoping for the best, and I threw myself into research, and I just got extremely lucky. Luckily, the fairies, just looked out for me.
All I noticed when I seen her walking through the hotel with that thing loaded full of plants, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, and it was pretty cool watching the episode today, how when they added the water, yours instantly clouded up, and they were kind of impressed by that. Like, they were like, oh shit. So they knew you knew what you were doing by simply that little bit of, you know what I mean? Like, you could tell where you were at.
You get the loose right, man. You get that loose right.
Yeah.
You know, because that's one of the hardest things to do is to get that loose right, man. So you know when
it's all that. Well, that's the essential oils, basically.
Yes.
Of the plant. So yeah, I used an excessive amount of botanicals in that, so I could get the lushing.
That's why it carried over like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I put all the botanicals in the still. I was very comfortable with doing that because I did that with hydrosols, so I wasn't worried about it burning. And I took that one low and slow. I felt probably more comfortable with the Absinthe episode. Even though it was like the first time I was on television. I had done some music videos or something when I was younger, but it wasn't like that level. And
that sounds like a whole nother interview.
That's what I was going to say. Well, let's talk about that.
It was like, were you like in a White Snake video? I mean, what we got going on here?
So my previous career before herbalist bartender, I was a performance artist, and I focused, like, most of my skill set was with fire. So I'd eat fire, I'd spin fire and belly dance, and just like whatever the event needed. If you needed me to wear a chandelier on my head and, guide the rich people to the rich stuff, I would do that. It's just, basically a high price decoration. I just eat fire and, in nightclubs. And
that's on the show. They kept showing the fire eating. Okay. All right. Now I understand that. All right.
So I did, that for, I don't know, like 10 years, as long as I could.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where, it was in my early 40s. And I was just like, man, I can't do this. I was like in a club in Palm Beach, and it was like 4:00 in the morning, and it was still like just going. And I just want to drink tea and read a book, and too old for this. But it was great. It was fun.
So you were definitely, like I said, you were definitely confident, and you definitely brought a mean spirit to the table, man. They were impressed. I mean, that was cool to see that. They did the one, and they're like, there ain't really much there. And then yours was like, oh shit, look at that. And the third one was like, there ain't really a lot there. So you definitely hit exactly what they wanted you to hit on that episode. You definitely did your homework and did exactly what you needed to do.
I felt very fortunate. Dylan and Michaela did a great job too. Their spirits were very delicious. They just unfortunately didn't have the lushing, but they are, both very, very talented distillers, and they had a lot more experience than I did. That's for sure. And I was just felt so privileged to, be in that company and just have all those, those conversations. And Michaela was the first female distiller that I ever met. So it was really, really cool, to work with her on set.
So didn't you second guess the amount that you put in your still? And in all reality, it ended up being to your benefit. Was that, you were questioning the amount of liquid you put in there? Was that what you were doing in the beginning?
Yeah, well, I second guessed everything. I like you were saying, calm and collect. I felt like I was just losing my shit in every which way. And when they had kind of let us know that we only had 4 hours or something to colorize the absinthe. Again, I lost my shit. I was just like, oh my God. So I had like 2 different projects, going on at the same time. So like, if one of them didn't work out, maybe the other one did. And that's, kind of like a habit of mine too. I always have multiple projects going on. And I even did that in the Popcorn Sutton Challenge, with Pam Sutton that judged that. They didn't show both spirits or talk about both spirits that I flavored, but I had 2 projects going on.
Hey.
So what are you doing nowadays? I mean, are you distilling somewhere, or did you take a break?
I took a break from distilling. I tried to launch a bitters company with a co-packer and 3 other partners. And, I don't know, there was a lot of learning lessons that I've had in the past couple years, trying to be an entrepreneur. Shell companies are a real thing. Maybe you shouldn't be in business with friends. So I had done some consulting work while all that was going on. And one of the projects that I consulted on, I did multiple on spirits and on bar programs. And one of the bar programs called the Pharmacy, that was an amazing experience. It was just really right up my alley. So it was easy in Belmont, North Carolina. My 2 partners, Joe Jordan and Robert Ash, they had this, space that was just sitting empty, and they kind of dreamed of a speakeasy, being put there. And, they had different careers And so they needed support with creating the bar program. So here I came, and I was just like, well, this needs to be a medicinal program. It's the pharmacy. We're going to, have Four Roses, be our well, since it was a medicinal whiskey during Prohibition. And had a lot of fun researching medicinal spirits and the history of, during the Prohibition, and really got to lean on my experience as an herbalist developing cocktails that had medicinal action and spotlighting cocktails with medicinal actions. And I went on my merry way after launching them, and they asked me to come back a year and a half later as a partner. And that's what I've been doing. And things have been going great, revamping the program and really hitting our stride since I've been back. And it's really starting to feel kind of at peace and at home again for the first time in 7 years. So it's been really nice, and just to see this project flourishing. And now that I've been hitting the stride, part of my brain is like, all right, well, I think it's time to get back into distilling. So I've got some things, my fingers out there, feeling my way to what feels right, and what that would look like.
So these barrels, so they will be coming out soon, you said? Or is it?
Yes.
Can you talk more about those?
And how someone could get those?
So I wish I knew all the details, because literally I just kind of got these samples last week. From what I understand, Devil's Foot is launching an orphan barrel program. And so these are going to be, small runs of just, found barrels. And so when it's sold out, it's sold out. And so they're going to release my stuff. They have some of my absinthe that didn't make it into the bottles. I had ran out of, stuff from my garden, and, so that it was never completely finished. So I'll be working with them to kind of get that up to par. So I thinking maybe, definitely by spring, things will be hitting the shelf in North Carolina. I'm going to guess that it's going to be a special order. I don't know the legality of getting things shipped from Ohio, but somebody.
Yeah. It's terrible. Just go get it. Yeah, just know somebody or go get it. That's how you get stuff in Ohio. That's how you get it here. Now, what about your Master Distiller jar?
The what?
The Master Distiller jar release.
Oh, so it already came out. I think I was part of the first wave that got to release their jars. And initially I was, going to do the whole thing, and it was going to be my absinthe. And I had a farm growing all of my wormwood to distill. But I unfortunately just didn't have the time to run back and forth from Tennessee, because absinthe is, very difficult thing to do. There's a lot of steps.
It's not just throwing sugar and yeast
mashed together. Yeah.
So it's definitely more than that.
Sugarlands has an incredible setup, and even though I would have been working on a smaller still, I'm just too obsessive and a little bit of a control freak when it comes to my projects that I just opted to take the check. For me, I've produced legal absinthe. I've had, maybe not my name, but like my product in legal bottles. So it's
different, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a different thing.
Well, that's awesome. So when you do distill, you say you're doing it on your own or whatever. Are you real picky with the yeast?
Am I real picky with the yeast?
Yeah, like the type of yeast used for different types of spirits.
No, because I usually, I typically, home distilling, home mashing. I am pretty simple because I put in my flavor. I kind of, I didn't think my whiskeys were any good, so I wasn't really focusing on my whiskeys. Now I've got to go back to square one after tasting this Bloody Butcher and some of these other whiskeys that I did. But yeah, so I had just been doing sugar washes, and that Pathfinder
Mhm.
I can't, is what I was using because it works really good for the high sugar content and adding the right amount of nutrients. So I keep that pretty neutral on that, and it's just the filtering, and for me it's resting all the herbs and botanicals or other flavors post distillation that I
Okay.
put energy on.
Nice.
Yeah, that way the botanicals can speak for themselves. Like, I had made my like variation of a chartreuse, aphrodisiac style. So I used a lot of, heartwarming and other warming botanical. And that was, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so yeah, it's definitely, I like a neutral spirit. But I hadn't, when I had first moved back to the Charlotte area, had got a house just with a huge basement just for distilling. I was all set up, and I had like what it was, some weird stalker issues, and my uncle basically wrote an email to the sheriff's department and said, my niece was on Moonshiners Master Distiller. Can you do drive-bys at the house? And I was like,
Oh no.
it just blew up my spot. I can't distill here anymore. So, I had another space, but that was so unfortunate.
Well, I'm glad things are going better for you now, and hopefully you can get back to it, like you said.
Have you tried anything other than sugar wash for your botanicals to like put a little different flavor in there, like maybe using a fruit based mash to add a little bit more flavor into your end product that's still there when you add your botanicals, other than like sometimes sugar wash is the way to go. Like you're making gin. Who does that? Tom does that.
Yeah.
The sugar wash. Sean, ain't that who does that?
Oh,
Squeeze that.
Yeah.
And like, and why waste money on extra ingredients when you don't have to? But
What was it?
Yeah,
Michaela used sugar beets or something. What did she use?
Sugar beets. I mean, and that's a lot of the commercial sugar out there is part like sugar beets, but for me it was just a matter of time because I know, and I have cut a lot of fruit, and that my strawberry brandy, like that was hell cutting each cap off at like commercial levels. But I'm hoping to get more time because I do love that, and there is so much out there that has yet to be still. Is anybody familiar with Matchbook? I think
What is
they're
it?
in Matchbook Distilling.
Uh-uh.
So they work closely with the slow foods movement and the Arc of Taste. So a lot of these specialty fruits and vegetables that aren't commodities that kind of have disappeared. They work at bringing them back to life and like keeping them from dying out. And she had been working with a lot of rare squashes and distilling them. And I got to meet her when I was at the Tales of the Cocktail. It's an international convention for the cocktail, beverage, and bar industry that happens in New Orleans in think it's in August. It was a blur. It was a lot of fun, but I got to taste some incredible, like being able to taste a distillate made from squash that's so exquisite that just really, kind of opened things up for me. And yeah, that's the great thing about distilling, is that there is so much more to explore. There's always some new experience to have, some new twist that you can really put your own thumbprint on.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many different variations of different things. Just in the little bit of time that I've been messing with it, I've discovered things that I've liked, and now I'm going to dig farther into that. You know what I mean? Once you find something that you are drawn to, now you want to figure more out about it, what you can do with it, where you can take it, things you can add to it. So distilling is definitely an interesting hobby.
Now, have you worked with infusing, you say you like to smoke, but, working with, making spirits with, working as an herbalist yourself? Can of spirits.
Can of spirits. I'm intrigued about that. So I want to know how you can incorporate that into like a beverage, like a THC infused beverage. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of fun. And I had been, since we are, the pharmacy, and there's a whole sober movement. I love working with, making NA things, not just necessarily, alcohol driven beverages, because different delivery systems for the herbs and botanicals to get these like cognitive changes. And of course cannabis is one of the most popular ingredients. Now I think there's other herbs that maybe aren't as potent, but will get you that nervous system relax,
absolutely.
Those euphoric feels, and engaging a little sociabilities. There's amazing plants that are only $4 an ounce to do that. But there's a whole world of cannabis cocktails out there that are without alcohol that I don't know, some of the legal stuff keeps changing, but as far as the people at home, the opportunities are endless of things that you can do.
It's
like a
cool.
pineapple tapache with weed in it. Woo!
Speaking his language,
was it Damon? Was it Damon that made that? Damon had a bunch of pineapples and made that one time or something. Like, I can't remember.
Yeah, fermented pineapples. That the Wild's fermented pineapples are amazing. It's so easy and it's cool. They just show up with their own yeast.
Yep.
So I know if at all possible, we all will be looking for your bottles of the Bloody Butcher. I'm interested. So it sounds like you have several bottles that may be coming out in the near future.
Yes, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 or 7 things that are going to get released. So
what did you say the distillery's name was?
Devil's Foot.
Out of North Carolina?
Yeah, North Carolina, Appalachia, outside of Asheville. So I think initially they were, brewing, and then they got into the ready to drink cocktails. And that's how they ended up, getting their DSP and all that wonderful stuff. And
there you go. There's a good question from Uncle Santa, or Old Bad Santa. Have you done any research in vacuum distilling? Low temperature distillation really helps bring out the flavors in botanicals that higher temperatures tend to destroy.
Yes, I've gotten to play with that, and it's pretty cool. I just assisted on distillation with cannabis, and it was just a really interesting way to distill. It was, I think initially it started off with kind of a cryo extraction before things were distilled. So fascinating, really cool. I'd love to do more. I'd love to have one of those stills in my house. I had one when I was at Young Hearts Distilling, but I didn't have the time to devote and focus on that like I wanted to. But I think it's a really great thing to be able to get those like subtle nuances and then incorporate them into, another spirit, just kind of, building layers. And I really like doing that when I'm making, medicines as well. Like when I make my rose elixir, I'll do like a rose water with a rose glyceride. So you're taking a glycerin or glycol, and then you're using that as the solvent to extract some of those medicinal components, and then you have an extraction in alcohol as well, and then you combine all three. So I think it's just like those layering that like you develop so many complexities, and I think that the vacuum distillation is really amazing, to build those layers just like they do in alchemy as well.
I almost feel like we could do a whole episode with get some people on.
Yeah. So
about vacuum distillation. Yeah.
Didn't a fella at Seven Brothers does vacuum distillation up in Geneva,
Setman,
Ohio?
Kevin Setman up at Seven Brothers Distillery. They do some vacuum distillation, and I know Bad Santa's talked about it. So it would be kind of cool to get some people on here because
set it up, Uncle Joey.
Let's very interesting.
Set up a vacuum distillation. I just want to sit and listen.
Yeah, you maybe.
I'm gonna sit and take notes.
If you could give us anybody else that you would want to have come on, Mena, let us know because it's very intriguing. I'm with Big Easy. I might not even come on that night. I might just sit at home and watch. Yeah.
It is so fascinating to watch how they process cannabis in that kind of distillation. I really want to lean in harder on that. I don't smoke weed anymore, or occasionally maybe a couple times a year I'll have an edible or something, but
a couple times a year equals like 50 or what?
No.
She's talking about herself, not you, Uncle Chad.
Yeah, this ain't Uncle Joey math.
Like maybe 5.
All right.
I'm super kind of, I guess, high functioning. I've got shit to do. I gotta, I need to be like on top of my game. I got, it's when I have like downtime. I have a couple days off, and it's like, all right, now is time. Now I will have all of the edibles.
But being an herbalist, that's kind of cool that you're already on that side of it, and now that can focus a little bit on that. Now you're going to do a little bit of experiment. Yeah, that's cool. That's hell yeah. Yeah,
and there's so many little like offshoots. Like you have vacuum distillation. I'm sitting here looking at my soxolite, so it's a whole different type of a still setup. It kind of comes from organic chemistry, where the distillation is it's all vertical, but instead of kind of coming up and over, it just kind of just condenses over and over and over and over again, and it helps concentrate. In conventional still, it's going to concentrate, but this is like on the next level, and these are really great for working with mushrooms.
Uncle Joey's happy now.
Oh yeah, and there's those kind of
interesting.
No, so I really
Mena, would you like to be a part of Still Talking?
I need a vacation.
Well, we'll put you right there in the middle, sister. I'm telling you.
Well, I mean, honestly, any other night, Sean ain't showing up, so he just have his spot.
You sound like somebody we need to be friends with.
All right, so Uncle Joey's going to try to set up a vacuum distillation.
Yeah, absolutely, Mena. Yes,
Santa, maybe he can get Mena back on. See if he can get the fella up at Seven, but I forgot his name. I remember the distillery though. Blew Sean's mind on that one. So and anybody else, that'd be a nice episode.
Yeah.
That'd be really awesome. All right, we could sit here and talk all night. This is definitely when I love talking to guests who open up different rabbit holes. Like you look
Yeah.
over here, there's like
Absolutely.
30 rabbit holes over here. I'm over here taking notes and putting notes down. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta
I
check
seen
that
Piggy's
shit out.
computer light up. I said, "Oh, he's doing work over there."
I gotta check that out. Like I'm looking stuff up.
That's what herbs will do to you.
That
The fun part, because I think that distilling can get if you're doing the same thing over and over again, and that's one of the things that I did not like about being a professional distiller. It's the redundancy when you're making just a commodity product like vodka, like 2 months of vodka, like, oh my gosh,
same thing over and over.
Yeah.
but it's all these other little nuances, and I love distilling spirits, and I love getting that taste right off that 175 proof gin in the morning. But at the same time, I love working with floral waters and making perfumes and making mushroom medicine, making just all of it. It's just so beautiful to watch things transform.
That's the magic, and you never know it all because there's always something else to learn, man.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, constantly learning. There's no doubt about it.
well, Mena, we appreciate you giving us your Monday night, and it was an honor to hear you speak on your passions. It was great to hear somebody who does what you do.
Yeah.
You're the first person to come on and who is this. That's what you do. Saying you love messing with the herbs and the botanicals. So it's you can really tell from watching your show to hearing you talk about it. You can definitely see the light in your eyes when it comes to botanicals. So it was definitely a pleasure to hear you speak on them this evening.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on and talking. And let's be honest, Sean finally did something and got a really good guest on tonight.
This was Sean. Nice, good job,
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah,
Hey.
Thank you, Sean.
Squirrel finds a nut every now and then, man.
That's right.
Sometimes it's in the bush, sometimes
Couple times a
it's
year,
under
it'll be
the
all right.
rock.
But we
So,
appreciate you, Mena. We really do.
Who's on next week, Uncle Joey?
We have Tracy Arvin,
Who's that?
Squatch Sean.
Sasquatch, yeah.
All right, I know I had no idea his last name.
I
So
don't know.
I just
Smoky Mountain Squatch Shine, Tracy
me.
Arvin.
All right, we'll see you next week. We appreciate everybody listening. Stream us on whatever, man. We're everywhere. You want to stream us, you can. Driving in the truck, listen to us talk. If you need anything, let us know. Yeah, and next week Sean won't be here, and it will be an all bald panel. Just so you know, Tracy he's a feller.
Tracy's a ball feller.
Haircut. So y'all have a great night, man. We appreciate all y'all. We love you. You need anything? Message us. We're always down to help. If you have questions, I'm sure there's ways that you could reach Mena, and you can ask her questions about you. You got absinthe questions? That's who I'd ask. If you like absinthe or like
Anything botanical related?
Yeah, I'm going to be in her inbox about some other things. So we appreciate you so much. So everybody have a great night, man. Y'all take care. And